Well, it's interesting you say that a war killed off the League of Nations, although it did rebirth itself as the United Nations, which is just as hopeless, if not more destructive than its predecessor. But a war is exactly what would undo the net zero dream. I mean, I don't see any of these organisations obsessing about the carbon emissions going on all these countries which are reducing each other to gravel. I haven't heard any complaints from them about it or any reports issued about the carbon tally of war. Nothing, not a word. They want to rebuild our houses because they want to sell products, not because they care about the climate, let's be perfectly honest. But a war would end net zero because you have to have power if you want to survive. And I'm afraid that net zero is providing a lot of power.
That sort of thing, a catastrophe or a near catastrophe like that will force nations to come to their senses. But the Democrats in the US and liberal, well, in American terms, liberal type parties across the world have invested so much into net zero that I don't see how they can change it. And it would take a major change, and probably it wasn't out of the United States to actually have the net zero mantra quietened. We're seeing, of course, China and India and Indonesia and Vietnam and etc. They basically just mouth net zero, don't know anything at all about it. And they say, well, we don't need to do anything about it till 2030, 2040, 2050 or whatever. So we won't. But they are just mouthing it and meanwhile getting very low cost of energy. And one of the reasons why we buy our windmills from China is because energy is so cheap in China, so they can produce it less expensively than we could here.
I'll tell you how it ends, how this net zero thing ends. The day that the millennials and the Gen Z, whatever they are underneath us, wake up and they can't turn on their iPhones, they'll be in the street shouting coal, 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 because all they want to do is go on social media. If they can't do that, then there's big problems that I guarantee it'll change overnight. But look, thank you for joining us today, Alan Moran. As always, insightful, and thank you for reading the reports on behalf of all of us.